In the air to right, and he did it again!
Welcome back to the Let These Two broadcast, and today we are talking about batting order, specifically the top tier player lineup, right? So we're not going to get into this, read this too much, but again, we're here mainly to figure out exactly what the best players and the best teams are doing in this game. It's a little quote from Babe Ruth: "The way a team plays as a whole determines its success." Couldn't say it better myself. Choosing your batting order is pivotal to succeed in baseball clash. It's important to suit your lineup to the batting order to make the best out of their stats and skills. All right, that's all we're going to really kind of read based off of that. Let's get into the batting lineup. Okay, so just kind of give you an idea of what my lineup is, and I'll explain kind of why it is right now as it is. So if we take a look at the lineup, we're using Mark. He's a boosted player, so I want to definitely see how he works within this game, just to kind of give my overall review and whatnot. King, Gibson, Wilson, Koo, Durant, Matthew, and then Jack, and then the pitcher. Okay? Now, Jack is typically my leadoff batter because that's where his only skill is, but he's a solid defender, so I have him in the game still. King, the guy is there mainly because he can hit bad pitches. And again, he has extremely good power and contact. Gibson, same reason. Average speed, and again, contact, power. Wilson, a cleanup spot just because he takes away the fastball. Koo, add a little extra speed, and if you look at the stats as they are in normal neutral mode, Koo has better stats for contact, hitting, and power, or speed, contact, power, and speed, than even Mark does. Durant, he is a staple at second base for the double plays, and again, has good power, average contact. Matthew, again, increases the pitcher's speed, and then Jack, mainly there for third base and that power, and of course your pitcher. So that's just my lineup. Right? But I'm going to give you guys the taste of what the best players in the world are doing, step by step. Why? Right? And again, it's changed over time, but right now, what I've seen in this game. All right, so let's go right into it. This is not it. This is just a kind of a blank slate, essentially. All right, so what I'm seeing mostly is a combination for leadoff batters of one of these three players. Okay, one of the three players you're going to see batting in that leadoff spot when you're playing this game. And I'm just going to kind of go in. It's either going to be a combination of either Gina, Annie, or Neville in that starting leadoff spot, right? In that leadoff position. Gina, Annie, or Neville are going to be your top leadoff hitters right now from the top batters. And again, the good thing is that Neville is a common player, so it's easier for you new players to get him leveled up faster, whereas the Gina and Annie, of course, much more difficult. It's going to take a long time to get Annie leveled up, especially with how many legendary players there are. Gina would take about, if you're really not paying for this, it could take about, maybe 6 months, 7 months if you're really focusing on Gina every week, getting her leveled up. So those are the three. So again, 2 are outfielders and 1's an infielder. But for this case, we're going to go with Gina as our leadoff spot, who I see typically right now. So then what does that happen? What happens next? Second hitter through 9. It's a mishmash, right? In my humble opinion. All right. So now here's a little bonus. Sometimes you will see batting leadoff, depending on the style, you will see in this leadoff spot, you'll see Wilson. And, of course, you will see our guy, Gibson. Right? So every once in a while, in a really heavy power team, you're going to see Gibson and Wilson, right, interchangeable as well. Right? It's because you want to get power. You want that right away. That definitely happens. But now, this is what it's going to be like. The top hitters in the world are using power lineups. It is making it nearly impossible to really pitch around anybody anymore. Okay? But one of the main staples in this lineup, no matter what you see, is Kevin in the 4 hole. All right, Kevin is in the 4th spot. All right, and from there, what I'm seeing right now is a lot of just mashing power. So it could be a combination of hammer, king, and Rosa with this infield here, along with either a catcher, depending on what they're going for. The catcher is either going to be Jessica or Matthew. And then the pitcher is one of 3 pitchers. Okay, one of 3 pitchers you're seeing a lot right now. And sadly for you beginners, it's legendary pitchers. So some of the best players in the world are using Riley. And if they're using Riley, a lot of times they're pairing Riley up with Jessica, right? But if they're also using Shotaro, and they're using Shotaro, they're coming in with Matthew. Or if they're not using Shotaro, they're using, where'd he go? Where'd he go? I'm blind. Wade, right? Wade usually is paired up with either Matthew or Jessica also. So for this, we're going to use Wade because Wade's my guy, okay? So now, this is typically your lineup. And of course, what we're going to do, just because he's in the game and you're going to see a lot of a new player, and of course, my hammer is not level 13 yet, we're going to use the new guy. So what we're seeing right now is this meshing of players. And again, a lot of times an outfield could also include now with Ryan or Clemens, or even Phoenix, depending on if there is a leadoff. But I don't see too much Phoenix within the top. But again, like I said, Neville or Annie is also in the outfield, depending on who the leadoff batter is. All right, so let's break it down how we are seeing it right now. So a lot of times right now, we are seeing lineups like this, right? Annie, Mark, King, Kevin, Wilson, Gibson, Rosa, or Hammer, either way, Matthew, and then pitcher, right? If we save that, take a look at that again. So now we have a balanced, again, Gina's fielding is actually not too bad. It's about 181, right? Maxed out. And her speed, she has a terrible arm, but the getting in the infield, that's really going to help a lot of speed. And then right now in the beginning of the game, of course, Mark, his outfield speed is essential. And then it's from there, it's just, you know, you look at King, right? And actually, what you're going to see is Rosa is a better option in right field because has a better throwing arm, 175, as to the flip-flop here. Throwing is really bad, but fielding is pretty good. So pretty decent right there. And then in the infield, you're looking like this. You see a lot of times you see Gina either on the corners. So first or third is where you see Gina. I'm going to put her at third base. Now you're looking at throwing ability or fielding, right? So pretty poor all around. So what you're seeing a lot, in my opinion, is a little bit like this. Or even if you're not using Gibson, a lot of people aren't using Gibson. Again, they're using kind of a combination of Andre as well. You're seeing a lot of Andre. And the solid thing about Andre, when he's maxed out, is his throwing is pretty decent at 175. So, you know, not a great fielder. So you can put him at third or second because it's a pretty decent arm. Not a good fielder, but this is the lineup I'm using right now, right? Again, Durant. He is a staple in a lot of people's lineups. And people are using him either interchangeably at second or short, depending on their own strategy, right? Because if you have a guy like King here in left field, a lot of times putting Durant at shortstop has a pretty good relay, whereas Rosa can throw the ball to second baseman without having to hit a cutoff, right? So having that throw to home plate definitely works depending on kind of how you're playing, okay? So this is the lineup that I'm seeing a lot of power, right, in the batting lineup, right? And defense, terrible, pretty much across the board. But if the idea is if you can pitch and you can give up 1 run, maybe 2, and then you're in extra innings, 1 swing of the bat from almost any of these players, minus Gina or the pitcher, it's game over, right? So also now, let's take a look real quick at if we use Shotaro instead. Okay, changes the game up quite a bit because as we know, Shotaro can hit, and he has he's pretty decent when it comes to his speed. At 81 is when he's maxed out, and a lot of these players, you could use that ability. So what happens is you could put him, say you're not using Mark there, you can have Mark here or Shotaro there, and then what it does is it gives you that extra element of hitters, right, across the board, which makes it almost impossible. The contact and the power across the board with these players makes it where it's so difficult. Because if you look at it, if it's a tie game, Mark's at 200, right? 13 level, Shotaro, 200 contact, Kevin 200, Wilson 200, King 200, Rosa 200. You got at the back end, you have Durant and Matthew at 175 and 162, right? But they're power, right? Not, again, minus Gina, but Mark, 200 power, and 190 is Shotaro starts off with 219, 200, 209, 203, 203, 190. This is what the top players in the world are doing, right? So this video only specifically is for building a top power lineup, right? Interchangeable pieces, but this is just what I've been observing, and it makes it extremely hard to be able to pitch around any of these top players in the world, all right? So what is your power lineup? What is your preferred lineup? Let me know. As always, see you guys next time on the Lefties 2 broadcast.